Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm your girl Shantae, presenting my business, Shantae's Travel Things. And if you're new here, well, guess what? You're in luck. I am the travel accessory expert. Basically, I design and create travel themed products for any type of traveler, whether you travel solo, with family, friends, whether you catch domestic or international flights. Your girl Shantae makes an accessory for that too, including if you're going camping, hiking, fishing, water rafting, skydiving, whatever it is that you need. I'm making a design and accessory for that too. Now, this video, basically, we're going to be talking about how I make my backpack coin purses. It's actually in the top two. It might have overtaken my dry bags, which used to be number one, but I think this is now number one, my most popular best-selling item. These cute little backpack coin purses right here. And basically, you can fit a lot of things in here. You can put your credit cards in them, debit cards, cash, chopstick can fit in there, business card holder. You can fit a whole lot of stuff in here. It's got my chopstick because you can't be chopped up in these streets. Got a few business cards. And of course, you got a bunch of receipts. And of course, you can fit cash in there as well. Coin, because it's a coin purse, all that jazz. And so these are the supplies that you're going to need to make this backpack right here. So we're going to print out your pattern. You can go purchase it from my website. Link is in the description box below. You're going to need a 7-inch zipper. You're going to need some lining. I use the Symphony broadcloth, but you can use whatever you want, even if you want to use another actual pattern for the inside. You're going to need your thread and bobbin, of course. We're going to need a 3/8 swivel hook. We're going to need some sewing clips, some scissors. I use the small scissors just to cut off the excess thread. And then you're going to need some cotton fabric or cotton canvas. Either one is fine. Oh, and most importantly, you're going to need your interfacing so that your bag doesn't just like flop down. I use the Pellon 809, and then of course you need an iron. And that's basically all you need for this pattern.
And you'll need a little fabric glue, but don't worry, you'll need this for most of your projects anyways.
And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our interfacing right here, and then we're going to take your fabric, and then you're going to put it on the sticky side, and then you're going to iron it down just like so. And then you're going to do the same exact thing. These pieces right here, this is going to be the piece that goes on the sides of the bag like that. So you're going to take the smallest pieces that you're using for your outside fabric. Same thing. Of course, you're going to cut off the excess there very quickly. And then once you're done with that, then we're going to fold these about a quarter, 0.33, a quarter inch. I kind of just eyeball it. I don't actually measure it, but just like a tad bit like that. That's about a quarter. That's about a quarter inch right there. Probably a little bit more, like less than half an inch, but more than a quarter inch, basically. All right, and then once you have both sides folded, we're going to take our zipper, and then we're going to cut off a little bit off the top. I don't really measure. I kind of just eyeball it. So we're going to cut a bit above the stopper right there, like so. It's about a quarter inch above, quarter inch, 0.33, just like that. And then we're going to pin these, and we just need 2 on each side. Then we're going to cut off the excess at the bottom, which is usually directly in front of the end piece if you have a 7-inch. If you have like a 9-inch zipper or 10-inch zipper or whatever bigger size, don't cut off the end piece until you measure it out first, because you want to make sure that you got it exactly.
And then here, we're going to take that square piece and you're going to fold it in half. Doesn't matter which direction, just whichever direction you think looks the best. On whichever side of your piece you want to be the front, that's the side you're going to fold it on. I personally like the purple parts more. Like this one has more blue. I like the purple part, so I'm going to fold it this way because this way is going to be the front of it. But again, if you like the other, doesn't matter which side you like. Just make sure that you look at it to see which side you like the most. I like the purple part more. So I'm going to fold it this way evenly. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take those same two small pieces, but the lining version, and then we're going to fold it the same thing. Then we're going to fold this one about almost halfway in between. So we're going to have these kind of match, looks like the same. Like there. There we go. All right. I'm going to separate it. And those are the two pieces right there. And then we are going to take that longer piece of the lining, and then we're going to fold it in half. Doesn't matter which direction, unless you get a piece that's actual a pattern on it. But usually I just use plain solid fabric. And once you do that, then we're going to fold both halves again, similar to how if you watch my wristlet video, pretty much the same thing as that. Then we're going to fold that in half. And this part, make sure you get it as straight as possible. I know this piece is very small, so it's going to be kind of annoying. But just make sure you get it as straight as possible. It just looks nicer that way. Okay, so we basically have all the pieces prepped and ready. Now we can construct everything together. So first we are going to take the lining pieces. Doesn't matter which side because it's the same color. But if you are using another cotton fabric like this, you're going to want to put these down on the right side, facing the right side. And then you're going to have this piece like so. Facing up, you want the fold facing up, but you want it facing away from you. And then pin the edges. The next step is we're going to take that long piece, the long lining, and then we're going to take the side that we actually want showing, and then we're going to line it on top of it like so. And then we're going to pin it. And then you're going to cut the edge off like this, right at the end. And then we're going to take the same thing again. And not directly in the middle, but right above like that. I kind of just eyeball it. I don't actually measure it. We're going to fold this like there. Then we're going to cut right here. Cut that excess off. And now we're ready to actually start sewing all of these pieces together. And now we're going to take that lining piece right here, and then we're going to sew straight on the edge. Let me focus that. We're going to sew straight on that edge right there. About 1/4 inch, doesn't need to be super far back, just right around the edge there. And always make sure you don't start off right at the edge, because since it is not interface, it usually gets caught in the machine. So just start a little bit before the edge. And of course, still backspace, just not all the way to the edge. The other side you can do towards the edge. Then we're going to go get the long piece like that, and then we're going to sew a little close to the edge right there, all the way down, just a straight line. Same thing, don't start on the edge because it always gets stuck in the machine because it's thin. So start a little bit before the end, but still always backspace. Now let me show you what I mean. Like you see here, I didn't start all the way at the end. I started like a little bit before. Because whenever I start at the end, it always like gets stuck in the machine. Then I have to take it out anyway. And then next up, we're going to take that piece right here, that front pocket. And whichever side you want facing up is the side you're going to sew on. And same thing applies. Don't sew all the way to the end. Just sew a little bit before. And we're going to sew on that bottom line, the bottom part, right there. Okay, just like that. And now we're going to take the zipper, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sew right on the edge there, about 1/4 inch, all the way down. Same thing we're going to do on the opposite side. Sew all the way down on the side that's facing the zipper. And if you're like me in the beginning, I kept messing up and accidentally pulling my zipper all the way back. And once you do that, like pull my zipper all the way back, you can't put it back in. So what I used to do in the beginning until I got like really used to this, I would take a little clip, put it on the end, so that way if I accidentally pull the zipper back, I won't be pulling it all the way off. Because once you do that, the zipper is done. You can't use it again. Unless it's a separating zipper. Those are the only exception. And for this one, because it is interface, you can start at the edge and backstitch and go all the way. And when you get towards the end, you're going to want to obviously move the zipper out the way. You're going to make sure you cut it to make sure everything is even on both sides. Get rid of that loose thread. Now that we cut all the pieces, now it's time to start putting everything together. So we're going to take that piece that we want as the front pocket. We're going to put it on the side that we want facing the front. Align everything perfectly like that. Oh, and if you accidentally, like in the beginning, like I said, I've had a long journey. If you accidentally cut this a little bit shorter or a little bit longer than this piece, just make sure you just cut these edges to make sure that they align perfectly together. And that's basically it. Like so. And then we're going to take the long piece right here. And then the same thing we did earlier when we cut that piece, like a little bit right before the middle. We're going to do the same thing here because this piece is going to be the little loop that's going to hold our swivel hook. So we're going to put like so, then we're going to cut that there. And then whatever is left, you're going to fold it in half and cut evenly because these are going to be the straps. So once we do that, we're going to take that one small piece right there. Then we're going to take our swivel hook, and then we're going to put it through the loop here. Just like so. So yeah, I can see. So that straight piece like that. Just like that. We're going to take a little glue. Put it a little bit towards the edge. Just a little dab, not a lot. Like that. And then, again, I just eyeball it. It doesn't really matter where. You're going to make sure you're going to put the loop here and try to center it the best you can. Again, I don't measure it. I kind of just eyeball it, and it's always been straight. And then you just want a little bit above. You see that? You just want it a little bit. You don't need it to be a lot. Just a little bit above the top. Okay, and then we're going to take the other two pieces, same thing. We're going to put a little tiny dab of glue on the end. Just a little dab. Then we're going to line that up perfectly. Same thing with the other side, just a little dab. And it should look like that. Just like that. Okay? And then next step, we're going to take that last small piece of lining that we have here, and then we're going to fold it perfectly across the bottom part of this section right here. Just right on the bottom. We're going to line it up just right because you don't want to see it underneath. So you put it right on the edge. All right. And then once you have that lined up, next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew this down, and then we're going to get to the zipper part. We are going to sew first on the top part here, right across that edge, close to the edge, and then we're going to sew the bottom part after that. Remember, always back stitch. Don't forget your back stitch. Let me show y'all what that should look like. All right, last video, I didn't have my tripod this video. I got to work on my lighting. All right, so it should look like that. You see how I have the top stitch right there in the bottom? That's what it should look like, just like this, close to the edge. And there, now we're going to sew the bottom part. We're just going to sew along the edges all the way around. It's hard to see because there's a lot of purple, but you see there's along the edge. And now we're going to take the loops here. See how I have it like that? We're going to take the loops like that. And then we're going to twist it into the edge here. And then sew it right in that corner right here. And then sew right there into that edge. Same thing to the other side. Get straight. Then we're going to fold it and then just turn it that way. And now it's time for the zipper piece. So we're going to hold this piece facing up where the pocket is, like so. Then we're going to take that zipper piece. We're going to face it upside down. So right side needs to be facing right side. And then we're going to have the zipper part at the top. We're going to have it facing your left, like so. But you're going to want to pull it down a little bit though. But you'll have the top of the zipper facing left and then the bottom half facing the other side, just like that. Then we're going to put a pin on either side. Same thing with the other side. Now I actually cut it pretty perfectly, like it's perfectly neat. But again, if you accidentally cut it and it looks like that, just when you put it evenly in the center, just cut off the excess right there. And then same thing we did to the lining piece, we're gonna sew just along that edge right there, approximately 1/4 inch, 0.33, just right there. And I usually back stitch on that middle part right here. I usually back stitch right there on that middle part. Now here's the fun part. Now that we have our two pieces, everything is sewn together like so. Now we gotta construct these two individually and then put them together, and that's basically the last few steps. So basically this is gonna be folded up like that, and then just pin it all the way on both sides. And you're gonna do the same exact thing with this part as well. Then that piece, just gonna fold it down. Always fold this down. These little flaps right here, always fold that down. I usually do the edges first. And then if at any point, this happens sometimes I get it perfectly, I cut it perfectly, sometimes I don't. But if you accidentally, let's say you cut this bottom part a little bit too big, you cut this part a little big and it doesn't perfectly go in, see that little hole right there? You always fold the bottom part onto the top part so that it folds perfectly. Never fold the top part into the bottom. Never fold this part. This part has to always be straight. But you can fold the bottom piece into the top part. Like I only cut it accidentally a tiny bit more. Just that little part. Okay, then we're going to do the other side. And that's basically what it looks like. Just like this. Then just put that flap down. It's like I did this one perfectly. See, I cut it perfectly and it perfectly aligns there. And if your corners, and if there's a little teeny piece in the corners, always cut those off. If it doesn't align perfectly, just cut it. There we go. This one aligns perfectly. This one aligns perfectly. This one has a little bit there. We're going to cut off that edge. Okay. All right, so now that we have these two pieces all pinned up, now we're going to sew along the edge. And I always recommend sewing from the inside. So you see the piece here? We're going to sew from here instead of sewing from that part. So we're just going to sew along here, go all the way down, then we'll do the same on the other side, sew there. And the same thing we're going to do this one. Instead of sewing from here, we're just going to sew from the inside first and just go all the way down, all the way down. All right, here we go. And same thing, we're going to sew pretty much close to the edge, but not super close because you don't want the fabric to kind of not line up. So same thing, about a 1/4 inch, 0.33. And same thing, because this isn't interfaced, you want to start sewing a little bit before the end and then back stitch and then continue on the rest of the way. But for this one, you would want to go all the way to the end. Unlike the other piece, you want to go all the way to the end of it. Anytime I'm sewing pieces on top of each other, I always back stitch on those areas. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. We're going to go all the way to the end. The other piece, we started here and then we just kept going. But this one, you're going to start there, but then you do want to back stitch to the end. You have to close that, okay? And before we go into the next step, you want to double check your seams all the way around. You flip it inside out. Because sometimes the fabric shifts. You want to make sure that there are no holes anywhere. Oops, I got one right there. So I got to go back and sew that edge and check the other side. All right, no holes anywhere. Always double check this part because it'll be very annoying to have to undo half the bag just to sew that part back up. So I'm going to go back and sew back that part because the only part to where there's a little hole there. Even if there's no hole, make sure when you're going back here that you didn't sew too close to the edge because sometimes the fabric does shift while you're sewing it. So you want to make sure you go over any lines that seem like it might end up becoming a hole later on. So just double check your edges. Always double check the edges. Make sure it looks good. Yes, yes, yes. I checked it on the inside too, just to make sure I wasn't too close to the edge there. Yeah, and then we're going to do the same thing with the main body part, and then same thing, you're going to check your edges to make sure that there is no hole, or if you sewn too close to the edge, that it doesn't end up becoming a hole. Oh, and when you're sewing this piece, you always want to make sure that when you're sewing this part that has where the pocket is, you want to make sure your lines, double check it after you're done, make sure your lines are in front of the pocket piece, the pocket lines. You want to make sure that it's in front of it. Otherwise, you're going to see the edges of the pocket on this side of the bag. Same thing here. The edges where we sewed the strap corners right there, make sure that when you're sewing this part, you're sewing in front of that. And if you messed up, fine, just go back and sew over it. But we're going to start sewing from the inside. Usually it works perfectly fine. But if you actually messed up and a shift, doesn't matter, just go back and make sure you sew that edge, okay, in front of it. Same thing like I said, always want to make sure that what you sewn is in front of those pocket lines. Same thing, it's in front of it. And then the other side, same thing, make sure that's in front. And same thing, you want to make sure you check your edges. Make sure that you're not too close to the edge. If you are, make sure you just go back. See, my fabric shifted. Yeah, it's a little too close, so we're going to go back and sew there. This side looks good. Okay. Okay, so I did have to, right here, the fabric kind of shifted a little bit, so I had to go back and sew because it was too close to the edge. And just remember again, check your edges, and then we're going to flip it inside out once you got it perfectly. Same thing, you want to double check them edges. Always check your edges, okay? Always. So right here, that looks good, looks good. No holes. Same thing on the other side. Looks good, looks good. Make sure all these pieces are lined correctly. Make sure this isn't coming out. All right, so now it's time to put this piece and this piece together. Now for this part, we're going to put these two pieces together. So we're going to turn this one inside out. Okay, and then we're going to take this piece, leave it right side facing out, put it inside here. So both wrong sides are going to be facing each other. And you're going to make sure that these edges, these raw edges, are inside. Just make sure those are inside. Then you're going to pin these edges here. Now when you pin it, you want it to be close to the edge, but not all the way matching where the zipper is. So not like that, just a little bit before. It's really like half of a quarter inch. So basically, just a rule of thumb, you want to make sure that this part is in front of your stitching there. Just make sure it's in front of it. All right, so just like that, all the way around. Then we're going to put it inside out. I mean, right side in. Outside out, whatever. You know what I mean. Okay, inside in and outside out. Okay, just like that. And then for the last and final part of this, so we're going to sew right on top of your stitching there. Right on top of your stitching, you're going to sew along here, right on top of it. You're going to match it as perfectly as possible. Use that as your lines. Right, and then same thing on the other side. We're going to sew right on top of our stitching all the way. And that is the final and last step. I usually start with the side that doesn't have the zipper. I start there. In this part, you don't want to go fast because you want to make sure that when you're sewing, that the inside part is not getting bunched up, because then you'll have to undo the stitching and then re-sew it. So just make sure that this is really flattened out. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure this is flat. Yes, it is. Then we're gonna begin. And don't forget the back stitch in the beginning. Okay, and always check to make sure the top part isn't slipping down. Because again, you don't want it behind your stitching. You want it in front of it, but not too close to the edge. And then you don't want this to get bunched up. And it's going to be a little bit harder to stay on that straight line just because the zipper's in the way. So you want to go slow here. Make sure it's lined up. Okay. Right, yeah. This part is always the hardest. I hate hand sewing with a great passion. I prefer just to use a sewing machine. So this part, you can technically just hand sew that if you really don't want to. Like if you really can't get this part, that's totally fine. I refuse to hand sew. So I just try to get it all the way out. And I actually, since I do this all the time, I actually can get it pretty perfectly. See, it's right there. It's perfectly on the line. I matched it perfectly. But I get it. It's a little hard, that part. But you can get it done. Same thing. I'm going to start with the side that doesn't have the zipper. Just to clarify, the reason why I hate hand sewing is because I am very impatient. I'm just so impatient. But, I mean, I can do it. I just don't want to. And there you have it. That is how you make my mini backpack coin purses. It's a little tedious, especially when you get like the straps and all that stuff. But it actually comes out very cute. It's fun. It's a nice little accessory. You can fit your credit cards in here, your debit cards, chapstick, cash, coins, pretty much anything that you can think of. That's like small, nice little item. You can fit that in there. Hook it to your backpack. Anything that you really like. Yep, and that's the end of the tutorial. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be making a lot more of these. If there's any particular pattern or fabric or bag that you guys want me to do, definitely leave it down in the comment section below, whether it's something that I already make or something that I haven't made at all. I definitely love suggestions. I could definitely make projects of things that I don't actually sew too, so I can do that as well. You already know. Your girl Shantae, stay doing things.
Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe while hitting that notification bell and making sure you select all notifications so you always know when I'm posting my next new video. And don't forget to subscribe to all of my social media platforms, all of it being at Shantae's Travel Things. Adios!